Another sunny, beautiful day in the city of Lagos, and you're watching Meet the Boss, brought to you by ConnectNigeria.com. I still remain your humble host, William Tuzomba, and today's edition of the program promises to be an eye-opener. Why do I say so? Well, as I usually say, why not just sit back, relax, and after this timeout, I shall be unveiling my guest for today. Welcome back to the show Meet the Boss, brought to you by ConnectNigeria.com. I did mention before the timeout that today's episode of the program promises to be an eye-opener. There is no doubt that technology now dominates the way we live life and the way we do business. And over the years, there has been one brand that has maintained this steady growth in consistency when it comes to technology, be it hardware or software. Well, today on the program, I have with me as guest the Group CEO of Cwg in person of Mr. James Agada. Sir, you're welcome to the program today.
Thank you very much.
And we're indeed honored that you could make out time out of your busy schedule to see us today.
Yeah, welcome.
Good. Now, sir, as is customary with the program, we like to start by asking, or the viewers would want to know who Mr. James, from your own words, how would you describe, or who would you say Mr. James Agada is?
Mr. James Agada is a village boy that happens to be the CEO of Cwg Plc.
I like that, very simple. Even though when I did my little research, Bloomberg has a different definition of who Mr. James Agada, but let's flow with that. Let's flow with that. Now, sir, the Cwg brand. How did it all start? Can you tell us more about Cwg and what it does?
A bit of history. Way back 1992-93, a young man called Austin Okere, who was working in Inlax Computers, got together with his friends and decided to start a computer company called Computer Warehouse Limited. And he left to become the first CEO and to build up the company from scratch. Along the way, Computer Warehouse also incorporated a networking company. So now you had both the hardware company and the networking company. And along the way too, it's also acquired a software company. So you now have both the hardware, the software, and the communications. And a critical thing running through the DNA, starting from that time, was the realization that what we needed in the ICT space in Nigeria was service excellence. You wanted people not to add IT as another thing to worry about. They can leave it to you and focus on their business. And we've grown with that ethos, evolved it around different services, evolved it around different business models, to where we're able to list on the Nigerian Stock Exchange as Cwg Plc in 2013. We've ridden on that ethos to go into 3 other African countries, Ghana, Uganda, and Cameroon. We've rode on that ethos to expand our service offerings across many sectors, from banking to telco space to government to service industries to manufacturing.
Interesting. Interesting. Very good flashback you just gave us. Now, sir, tell me, in all those years that the brand has been, changing face, as it were, to where it is today, what have been some of those challenges? I want to believe it wouldn't have been smooth sail all the way.
Obviously, it has not been smooth sailing. To start with, we are based in Nigeria, and therefore there's nothing like being smooth sailing in Nigeria. So along the way, there's always been all kinds of disruptions.
Tell us some of those.
When the company was first birthed, the next thing that happened was that there was the Abiola crisis.
Okay.
It almost died before it got off the table. But that was survived. Along the way, we've had the changes in some government regulations that were quite life-threatening to the business. For instance, CBN came out just after we got into doing the ATM business, and we're doing quite well. And the CBN came out and said, well, sorry, banks are no longer allowed to deploy ATMs outside their branches. And actually, in essence, what happened was that $30, $40 million a year business just went to zero. And then we had the changes in the communication space. We had pioneered link as a service in the communication space, where we told banks and other customers they didn't need to buy dishes, they didn't need to buy earth stations and all those. They just needed to pay for a link. And we set up those earth stations. We provided the links. And by the time the GSM companies finished laying their fiber, suddenly you could have capacity, 4 times capacity at a quarter of the price. And our communication business went through an extremely severe downturn that it didn't recover from, and we barely ourselves managed to recover from. Then, of course, you had the 2008 global crisis that eventually affected Nigeria. And then while you're trying to recover from that, you ran headlong into the recession. And the crash in exchange rates from 150 something to 300 and something. And so many of these were extremely life-threatening for organizations. Many other organizations didn't survive. Many of the companies that we started out with no longer exist. Of course, there are new ones that have taken their places and things. So we've had our fair share of life-threatening experiences, and we expect that if you are trying to build for the long term, that you're going to have more of those.
If I may interject at this point, sir, what would you say is that one thing that has made the brand to survive all these various things you mentioned? What is that one word that can just pop into your head as something that helped?
I think it's always easier for somebody to start outside and point out the one thing. Because the person inside, the first thing is that, there's something we tell ourselves that in spite of, we will deliver the service, we will survive. In spite of, no matter what happens, we'll be there, both for the customer and for ourselves. So that spirit is pretty well embedded in the organization. Yes, those things come, but nobody's going to use them as excuses for not getting up tomorrow and performing. We've told ourselves we don't have any excuse, we don't have any recourse. We'll find creative ways to survive.
Well said, well said. Now, sir, let me take you a bit back. Still on the little research I carried a while to you before coming here today. According to Bloomberg information that I got online, before now you used to be the technical mind behind this brand. What's a typical day for you like? From that point to where you are today as a group CEO, what's your typical day like?
I'm not sure that there's anything like a typical day. So let's say when I was the CTO, I could have a typical day. Because as the CTO, my responsibility were mainly twofold. One is to ensure that we deliver this excellent service to the customers. So the first and last things of each day is to review the services we are providing to make sure they are still where they are. So that meant reviewing reports and looking at those reports and calling up people to follow up on that service things, and then making sure there are no service escalations, because if there are service escalations, I have to get involved and make sure that those service escalations are dealt with. And our customers have come to expect from us a commitment to deal with any service escalation without reason, without anything, and they know that it will be dealt with from the highest level of the organization. On the other side, part of my job was to build new products, new solutions, because we know that what you're eating today is what you cooked yesterday. So you better start cooking for tomorrow if you expect to eat. So at any point in time, we're always building new products, new services, finding new partners, and getting ready for what will come tomorrow. So that was my typical day then. As a CEO, a typical day is a bit more difficult, because the responsibilities are much wider. As a CTO, it's a very narrow, pretty predictable. As a CEO, they are not that predictable. There are so many stakeholders, and there are so many things coming at you from different angles, from government and government regulatory agencies, from your financing and the financing you need to have, and also from the service delivery, which you have to keep an eye on. So to say this is a typical day becomes quite it becomes any day that is typical is going to be. So some days are filled with meetings end to end. Some days are firefighting. Some days you are relaxed, you do research, you test out things. Some days you're chasing a bank or your customers to release money. So what typically the job, in my opinion, the job of the CEO if you have a good team, the job of the CEO is a bit easier. If you trust the team, you actually have not that much to do.
So would you say you have a good team?
Yes, I think I have a good team. I think I have an excellent team. It is evolved over time, but there are people you trust that if something is going wrong, they're going to call you and say, boss, this is likely to go wrong. These are the implications. These are the people who escalate to you. But don't worry, we are dealing with it. So sometimes the people escalate, you're properly briefed. Sometimes they won't escalate. You will call them yourself and say, you know what, there's this problem, but my guys are on top of it. And I get that. So there used to be a time when if it's raining, if you look out, we have lots of dishes and things like that. If it's raining, I won't sleep, because I'll be worrying about whether there's a lightning strike. But I can't remember the last time I had to worry about that. Not because those things are not happening. Those things are happening, but because so many people are competent and capable. You come in the morning, they'll tell you what happened. So maybe they worked overnight, but they were not bothering you. They will only, if there's something to escalate, of course they escalate, but they will tell you, don't worry, we are handling it.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Now, so we still have some more questions to ask, but at this point, I think we'll go on a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we'll go a bit more personal, like what you do to relax, because you've talked about a lot of technicalities. One would wonder, does Mr. Agada get to rest? So after this short commercial break, we'll come back and ask you any questions for today's program. Well, viewers, you're still watching Meet the Boss, brought to you by connectnigeria.com, and it has been an interesting journey so far with Mr. James Agada, the Group CEO of CWG. After this short break, we shall be right back to continue on our discussion. Please don't go nowhere. Welcome back to the second half of the show, Meet the Boss, brought to you by connectnigeria.com. And as I did say before the short commercial break, we still have as our guest today the person of Mr. James Agada, Group CEO of Cwg. And before the timeout, we did say we'll come back and still throw some other few questions before we call it a day today. So you're welcome back to the second half of the program. Good. Now, sir, let's go a bit more personal. Where do you draw your motivation? Starting from the days you used to be the CTO to now that you're the overall boss. Where do you draw motivation and the strength to keep going?
As a person, I get motivated by trying to build something. So when I was much younger, it was about building actual things. Yes, I still try to build actual things. And then it becomes, as the CEO, the motivation became, one, you've inherited something and you need to leave it in a better situation than when you inherited it. And that's a very big and powerful motivation, because there are quite a lot of challenges in achieving that. And in fact, that became the only motivation. What you've inherited, you have to pass it on to the next people in a state, in a shape where they can build on it and make it greater, because the whole idea is to build an institution. So that has been a driving motivation.
So like a parent that has a child, you want, the minute that child comes out, you want to see the child grow and succeed. Good motivator, if you ask me, good motivator. Now, so tell us, how would you rate the general business climate in Nigeria? From your perspective, with all the experience you've acquired over the years, if, say, a foreign partner comes to you and tells you, Mr. James, how's the business climate in Nigeria? What would you say, and what are some of those few things you think the government can do to better the environment?
Let's see. The first thing is that there are lots of opportunities in Nigeria. I think that's the first thing anybody recognizes. You have 180 million people, you have a huge landmass. Yes, a substantial number of the 180 million people are desperately poor. However, even though they are desperately poor, they are not starving, which means they eat, they move around, they wear clothes, and therefore they are not a zero market. They have their requirements. And on top of that is the fact that as at now, 50-something years after independence, we are still more at the starting blocks. Now, you can read it so many ways. Some people will think, oh, that means you failed, because the people you started the race with are all far ahead of you. However, it also means that if you start now, you actually have a longer period to run. And so, in my view, there are huge opportunities. And many of these opportunities are also arising from the challenges that we face in our environment. So if you don't have power, yes, of course, it's a big challenge for doing business. But it's also a big opportunity for those who are able to invest appropriately and with the right technology. It's also a big opportunity. Where some of those opportunities have dried up in the rest of the world, they're just starting to come up in our own country. So for those who have patience and who are willing to invest, I think Nigeria is filled with opportunities, and not small opportunities, extremely large opportunities. And you can look at it in any which ways. If you count all the satellite subscribers in Nigeria, they're probably not up to 5 million. You have close to 30 million households. So it's a huge opportunity for somebody who is able to figure out, why do you have only 5 million out of 30 million? Right. So that requires a lot of ingenuity, a lot of investment, but is the opportunity there? The opportunity is there for those who find it. That said, Nigeria is a tough place to do business. It's tough in terms of a lot of the business ethics. It's tough in terms of the non-availability of infrastructure. It's tough because sometimes the government makes regulations that seem to cast it in the light where it seems that it is not a friend of business. So if you are running a business in Nigeria, you face all these obstacles, and however, I mean, you need to be a cockroach to do business successfully in Nigeria, because everything and anything that can be against you will be against you. So that's my view about the...
Very interesting take, very interesting take. Now, if I'm to pick a word you used in your explanation, you talked about, you know, innovation. I mean, where they are with the population mass of Nigeria, there is no doubt that there is enormous room for thinkers to come up with innovative ideas that can serve the populace. Now, tell us, technology we know evolve every day and day. What's new for CWG? And where would you like to see the brand, say, in the next 5 years? Is there something new we should be looking forward to?
There are lots of things new in CWG, and there will always be something new in CWG. So even if I tell you the new things today, you'll come back tomorrow, probably there will be other new things. But what has happened, which is more of a revolution that has happened worldwide, is that increasingly you can automate a lot of activities. And because you can automate a lot of activities, there's been a growth in different platforms, because you are not going to expect everybody to go and make a big investment on things like this laptop or servers or things like that. So everybody wants to have a benefit of the capability to automate whatever process it is and gain the benefits. What that means is that people will continuously need people like CWG who come and take the burden of ensuring that those platforms can be built, can be supported, can be managed over time. So along that line, you will see that CWG will continuously get into newer and newer platforms, because we'll keep moving with our partners. We keep looking for where we're going to be able to support people to be able to use technology to grow their own business. So you'll see us doing things, for instance, in the security space, where we've looked at the fact that we do a lot of transactions in mobile in Nigeria today, and we know that there's a lot of risks in the way people are using their mobiles, whether it's USSD or mobile apps. Yeah. We know people are stealing people's phones and then wiping their account in a few hours. And then we've gone and said, okay, fine, there has to be a solution for this. Do a bit of research, find a bit of partners, and we're now putting together a platform that would defeat most of the issues we have when it comes to transaction security on mobile phones. I think we should be launching that before the end of the year.
Oh, okay.
You see us get into spaces like health, where we've looked around, we've seen what some of the issues are, and we're trying to pull the whole ecosystem together so that the critical things which are transparency, discovery, having the data that people will be able to make decisions with, that those things can be done. And we're working with HMOs and working with a few hospitals to see how that comes out. I believe that before the end of the year, we'll be launching one of our other platforms which will allow you to present bills, pay bills, not just pay, present. So if we finish this, you can just go outside and send me the bill. Hopefully there's no bill anywhere. And then we also realized that the utility space in Nigeria is struggling to find its way. But utility is something that you're not going to wish away anyhow. And moving from where we were, where it was that people didn't pay, to places where you have to pay, because if it's not a business, you won't get it. So we are getting into metering, getting into theft prevention, and things like that. So these are some of the areas we are going to. And when you look at these things, it's not just about hardware, software. There's a lot of business intelligence that goes in, a lot of artificial intelligence that goes in order to make these things work. And there's never an end to it. You start, you keep improving, and you keep improving.
Interesting. We have a whole lot to look forward to when it comes to CWG then. Now, sir, tell me, do you relax? If yes, how do you relax?
Relaxation is not I don't think the issue is relaxation so much to say, because for a long time your body might relax but your brain doesn't relax, because as they say in my village, when you now you know. As they say in my village, when you see the rabbit running in the afternoon, it's because something is pursuing it.
Very true.
So he doesn't have the luxury of sitting to rest or anything. He has to. So you don't have that luxury if you're faced with the environment we are faced with, and you have to. So, like I said, you can relax your body, but you won't relax your brain, because you have to be thinking, you have to be researching, and all that. So, for a few years, I mean, my relaxation has been managed to get home, hang your head down from the chair, and see if you can catch a few hours of sleep.
Can you share with us, has there been any book, business-wise, recreational-wise, that you would say you've read over the years that has really helped in your career, so that at least the viewers watching today's program can pick a thing or two and go look for such books?
I have an eclectic taste when it comes to books. So, not sure which one I will talk about. I mean, a recent one is Yannick Noah's Homo Deus, Homo sapiens and Homo Deus, which was quite interesting. When it comes to business books, well, I read a lot of autobiography, but I usually read them as novels, because I don't read. It's been a long time since I read fiction. So many autobiographies, I read them as novels, because in most of them, if you try to put a pinch of salt in the stories, you will know that they can't really be comprehensive. So people will choose, pick and choose, and then try to convey a message to you. So I've had a lot of them. There's the book about T.J. Watson Jr., IBM, which was quite good, and then the one on Buffett, Warren Buffett, and I have a collection on Steve Jobs, because I like Steve Jobs. He's one of those guys that you say, you go to mentor him, he's your mentor. If you're not careful, you hate him, because on some parts of his life, he's actually a pretty nasty person. But that's not,
Doesn't take away the genius in him.
And then, like Yannick, I do a lot of history, world history, love philosophy, and then love poetry, and then some hardcore science. I have a big book by Roger Penrose. It's very, very nice.
That's good, that's good. Well, sir, it's been beautiful. I think at this point, a formal handshake would do it. It's been a very lovely one, sir. And as you said, we will be following the trend with the CWG brand, especially with the new things that you said will be coming up. We'll be monitoring it and we'll be reporting it as much as we can do. Thanks for having us today, sir.
Thank you very much.
Well, viewers, you've heard it all, you've seen it all. The one and only James Agada, the group CEO of CWG, he's shared some wonderful insight about a bit about his business history, his work ethic, his day-to-day lifestyle in the office, and many other insightful information. Remember, you can watch today's episode of the program by logging on to our website at www.connectnigeria.com/cntv, and you can also watch on our YouTube page. You can follow us on our social media handle at Connect Nigeria on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And also, you can drop us a line. Let us know who you might want to see on the program, and we'll do our best to bring that person your way. I still remain your humble host, William Tuzumba, telling you to continue to keep a positive mind, and the sky might just be the beginning of your success story. Bye, guys.